So I do want to be clear. I'm not saying it's not a good movie or that it doesn't have some interesting components and things like that. I just hate it.
Okay.
This is a movie that drags me down. Like, I need to go pet a puppy. I need a hug.
Hello there, steampunks, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Steam-Powered Movies. I am one of your hosts, engineer and producer Mike Fraedrich, and I'm here with your other host.
Hello, I am Dana Fraedrich, disgruntled steampunk and fantasy author.
Disgruntled because
I hate this film.
Because today we watched the movie Snowpiercer from 2013, directed by Bong Joon Ho, more prominently known now for his 2019 Best Picture film Parasite.
Oh, I didn't know he was the same one.
Yep.
It's dark. Makes sense.
Same director. Starring Chris Evans, Captain America himself, in this movie about a post-apocalyptic train.
I will say this is an interesting one because it is our first post-apocalyptic film instead of it being a period piece. This is a near future movie, and we haven't done any like this yet. So the whole setup is really different.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to get into. So yeah, this is Steam Powered Movies, the podcast, if you don't know, where we watch movies that are steampunk to some degree, and then we talk about them. We say what we liked and didn't like, and at the end we give some ratings. So stick around for that. So yeah, let's get into it. From what I've gathered, you're more a steampunk aficionado than I am. I am fairly new to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that post-apocalypse steampunk is kind of its own thing. Am I right there?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it shares a lot of the same elements of like we've had to revert a lot of our technology. Although, as we'll talk about, this one hangs on to a lot of modern technology and even does a lot of like future technology. But we have the train.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of kind of steampunky throwbacks, and like the bar scene they were more like Roaring 20s kind of outfits, but
right.
Sometimes that era bleeds into steampunk, even though it's not technically the right time period. But yeah, so in this we had a few. I think this movie scrapes by like the barest definition of steampunk.
Sure, yeah. So basically the main reason we're talking about this movie is the train.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much,
the train itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big steam-powered thing, and it's sort of futuristic in its own right.
I'm not sure it's steam-powered, but it's a train, so yeah.
Well,
they didn't really go into it.
Spoilers in case you haven't seen this movie and you're going to listen to this. When they get to the engine room at the end,
mm-hmm.
You see all the steam rising.
Yes. But it also looks very fusion-y. I don't know, some kind of futuristic tiny fusion reactor or something. It's very bright and shiny.
Thought it looked kind of magnetic, maybe like the gears were magnetic somehow.
Like if he'd figured out the secret to perpetual motion or something, because he kept calling it like the Eternity engine. So maybe something like that.
Yeah, I kind of wish maybe we had learned a little bit more about that and like how the engine works. They just talk about how it's awesome.
Yeah, it's the future. It's everything. The train is the earth and life and stuff.
So yeah, we don't really learn a lot about how the train works.
Uh-huh.
I in my mind, it is steam powered in that there's like a heat source that generates steam that turns a turbine, but maybe the gears we see are magnetically interlocking instead of physically interlocking, because maybe that keeps them from wearing out as fast.
Maybe, possibly. Magnetism is also one of those components of steampunk, like we talked about with Wild Wild West and whatnot. There was a lot of use of the magnets with the collars and blades and stuff. So it sort of falls within that. I think, like I said, this movie technically falls within the definition, which is why it made it onto our list.
It also made it onto our list because
I hate it.
I kind of wanted to make you watch it again.
I know. I hate it so much.
And I wanted to watch it again because I remember. So maybe just a little bit background and like overall thoughts. Like, we watched this movie once before, maybe 10 years ago. No,
we were in
10.
this house, so it wasn't 10 years ago.
No, it was definitely the old house, I remember. But the movie came out in 2013, so it was probably around 2013, 2014.
I don't think that's right. I think the timeline is wrong.
Well,
but anyway,
we could disagree about dates later. But anyway, it was around 2014-ish probably when we saw it, because it was fairly new then. I knew nothing about it going in, and I enjoyed it for just the ride of like not knowing what's going to happen next, and just seeing the journey from train car to train car as we discover these like new mini worlds, and there's all like tension at every point, and we don't know what's going to happen. And so I kind of enjoyed it for that. Like, I was a movie that I was on the edge of my seat for, and because I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was like really sucked into the world. I think the beginning of the movie does a really good job of like setting the stage and getting you sucked in, and I was along for the ride. And I enjoy a movie that just kind of takes me along and I'm absorbed in, even if it's not the best, or maybe the ending isn't great. Hint, wink, nudge, nudge. But so that's kind of where and I hadn't seen it since then, so wanted to see again. And I'd say a pretty similar experience for me this time around, and that I was sucked in the beginning, I was along for the journey, but it started to fall off at the end. We can get more into that later. So how about you? Like, expound upon your unhappiness.
Viewers, I'm giving Mike a look. Oh my gosh. So I recall when we watched this movie, I feel like this was the beginning of that period where I was like, I don't want Mike picking movies, because I hated this movie so much. I want to be clear though.
I'm a little more adventurous than you.
Okay. I know what I like. I am perfectly comfortable with everything that I like. And I know what I don't like. And I'm okay with that too. So I do want to be clear. I'm not saying it's not a good movie or that it doesn't have some interesting components and things like that. I just hate it.
Okay.
There are some really interesting pieces in this, but this is a movie that drags me down. Like, I need to go pet a puppy. I need a hug. I need like a warm cup of cocoa after this movie. This movie is so dark. It's so sad. And everything sucks.
Well, I can't argue there. You nailed it. You nailed the tone of the movie. Everything sucks is the tone.
Yeah. Y'all, if you're not in a good place, like mentally, don't watch this film. Like, I care more about your mental health than I do about being popular or saying popular things. Like, if you're not in a good place mentally, don't watch this film, because it is rough.
Maybe especially if you have any like existential dread when it comes to like climate change, maybe, and the state of humanity and our ability to coexist and get along. Maybe don't watch this movie if you're having those kinds of feelings.
I recommend My Little Pony instead. It's a real uplifting show. But we mentioned climate change, and I do want to say it's a really interesting take too, that essentially the catalyst for like the state of the world in this film is that, okay, climate change is happening. It's real bad. So instead of, stopping the bad thing and like cutting down on our pollution and taking the steps to stop climate change, we'll just like try to do something that will allow us to keep doing all the bad, and that way we can just have our cake and eat it too, which of course goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, it goes really bad. I think I like how it was set up. It was actually really efficiently done, I thought, with just like the radio voiceover in the beginning, like the clips of radio or TV or whatever, saying, oh yeah, this report, this happened, and we're going to spray this chemical in the sky to cool down the earth. And it was like, whoops, too much. Now we have another ice age.
Right.
I do kind of like that was the setup. It's like an overcorrection to make it worse the other way.
Right.
Is how we messed it all up.
But it's also like very much that humanity thing of like, well, I don't want to stop doing the thing. I don't want to like have to give up anything. So instead we'll do this other thing that will surely not have any backlash.
Right. It's interesting. You mentioned you didn't know that this was by Bong Joon Ho. And this was the first of his movies I ever saw, and I've seen more of them now. So because I saw Parasite, I saw Okja, and he does like to make like a political type of statement. I've noticed with his movies, there's some sort of political theme. Like Parasite's about class, which I think he revisits in this or he did in this. He revisits for Parasite.
Yeah, really strongly.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
But also like the climate change thing seems like he was trying to make some sort of statement there. But also the thing about class, I think he did it better in Parasite. I'll have to get you to watch that at some point.
No, thank you. I don't want to. It's another very sad film.
It's much better, and it's tighter. It's more efficient in the storytelling.
But is it sad?
It's not My Little Pony. I'll give you that.
Is it? No. Is it like on the level of Widows? Because that like brushes up against like as dark as I can go.
I don't know. It might be darker than that. It has moments. It's not as dark as Snowpiercer. It's not as dark as this movie. It's not. Maybe somebody will tell me I'm wrong. I don't remember it being as dark as this movie. But anyway, as far as so you were talking about this is how humans ruin the earth. It's a parallel I just thought of, but I was already thinking in my head that this movie reminds me of another movie that I've been thinking about recently that came out before this movie, which is The Matrix. I think there are a lot of parallels.
You mean the first Matrix?
The first.
Okay.
The Matrix from 1999. I think there's a lot of parallels between The Matrix and this movie. It starts off with humans ruin the earth. In The Matrix, it's by blocking out the sun. In this one, it's freezing the earth. I mean,
that's very much dystopia at its core. How do humans trash the earth? How did humans ruin everything? And then, like, what did the survivors do?
I think that there's several other parallels too. There's a reluctant hero, and it's a hero's journey thing. You know, reluctant hero dives into this world of the craziness and learns all this stuff, and then at the end, much like the Matrix sequels actually pick up, it's like, oh yes, you were the chosen one to lead the rebellion because that's how the system was designed from the first place.
Which is another trope that I hate. I feel like it undermines everyone's struggle. Just more darkness.
Oh, absolutely. I think it confuses the message, whatever that is at the end. I was very confused at the end of this movie both times. I still don't get it.
Honestly, it just makes me feel like, well, this was all pointless. This is all like the last like 20 minutes of the film is like, this is a huge waste of my time.
You know, I kind of agree. I kind of agree. And let's just talk about the end of we'll talk about the end of the movie and then we'll go back and talk about some other stuff. But
okay.
The ending to this, I feel like it totally undermines a lot of what happens in the movie because you're setting it up as like, yeah, he's leading this rebellion. We're gonna do better and we're gonna make things right. And then at the end, he gets this speech, and you think he's like getting turned to like you get the big speech from Truman Show dad.
Wilford is his name.
Wilford, yeah. I think with the actor because he kind of plays the same role as Truman Show. Where he's
I never saw Truman Show.
Okay, we're gonna fix that at some point.
Okay,
that's a feel-good movie. It's a good one.
I've heard really good things about that one.
But he plays the like puppet master in that as well. So I thought it was kind of funny.
You just ruined it for me. Spoilers, man.
What? You kind of know the premise of Truman Show.
I know it's a big fake reality show. But anyway, it's fine. I don't care that much about spoilers.
Spoilers for Truman Show, I guess, in this one too.
There's spoilers for all movies, you guys.
Don't watch any movies before you listen to this podcast.
Ever. That's not actually true. Carry on.
But anyway, like, so then you get the whole speech. You're like, oh, okay, actually the message is going to be to fall in line. Everybody has their place. But then they just blow up the train and everybody dies. Like, so
the polar bear is going to straight eat the survivors.
I was thinking like that, you know, the webcomic, how it should have ended.
Yeah.
The how it should have ended would be the people get off the train, the polar bear eats them.
Yeah. Even though most of humanity died at like in the train crash, like you saw like most of it falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
So like, okay, there you go. There's the end of humanity. Cool. Like this was all pointless and everyone dies and humanity's over. Long live the polar bears.
Yeah, everybody did a real bad job. Everybody did a real bad job. And maybe that's the message of the movie is that
long live polar bears.
Yes. It's really back to the environmental message. Pro polar bears, anti-human. We should cede the planet to the polar bears.
I'm down.
Earth would be happier, I guess.
I mean, Yorick Bernson became king. That's another. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's not a movie. That I was gonna suggest His Dark Materials, but it's not a movie, so never mind. Well, there is a terrible movie. There is a terrible movie that was done at that. We can talk about that one later.
We might have to revisit that. But
Yorick Bernson for president.
So we kind of touched on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's steampunk about this movie?
I got more.
You have more.
I
Okay,
got more.
Yeah. So besides the train and the maybe steam poweredness and maybe the magnets, what else you got?
So also we have like the plight of the industrial worker versus power and money. This is very much a trope in steampunk, and also it continues to be a trope. One, because classism is still very much alive and well, and also because various nations throughout the world are still in various processes of industrialization.
Sure.
And this is one of my favorite tropes. I like seeing stories where, you know, the working classes and stuff get one over on the powerful and the rich. Fable is a really good series also that it has it's a video game series that has a bunch of steampunk elements, and you see this a lot. It's very good. Let's see here. So yeah, we've got that. The shoe. I want to talk about the shoe. Okay. So I don't know if you know, the shoe, the whole scene with the shoe in the beginning, where the guy like throws his shoe at Claude.
Yeah.
And then
Tilda Swinton's character.
Claude is the other one, the woman who was in yellow.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Tilda Swinton, minister something that I don't remember. So she like makes the whole speech about the shoe. The shoe is actually a really powerful symbol because the French word for shoe, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this because I do not speak French, is sabot, and that means shoe. It's where we get the word sabotage.
Ah.
So sabotage entered the English language. I looked this up earlier.
Shoebatage.
Sabotage.
That's how I'm going to say it now. Shoebatage.
I think the early 20th century is when it came into the English language. Linguists pick me up on this if necessary. And there is an apocryphal, that's a really hard word to say.
Words are hard.
Words are very hard. There's a apocryphal story about how this comes from working class citizens throwing their shoes in a show of defiance. And this is a thing that has happened in the world. I think Iraq is possibly one of the countries where this is, we've actually seen this happen. But as far as it happening amongst French workers, we don't actually have any proof of that. But the story goes that this is how they would show resistance, is they would throw their shoes.
I think it was Iraq where someone threw a shoe at George Bush.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
George H.W. Bush, when he was president, he was giving a speech somewhere and someone from the crowd threw a shoe at him. I'm pretty sure that was in Iraq.
Okay.
Or he was speaking about Iraq. It was something to do with it.
Right. But anyway, so the story, as far as we know, is apocryphal. But there is a pretty widely held belief that French workers would, because it specifically referred to a type of shoe that the lower classes generally had, and they were very clunky and stuff. And so, like, I think, what is it that the word sabotage means to bungle? And so there are a lot of thoughts that French workers would sabotage their jobs and things like that to make it hard for their basically capitalist overlords.
Yeah, stick to the man.
Yeah, exactly. So
Rage Against the Machine, all that stuff.
Right. So the shoe is like a super duper powerful symbol. And I kind of like that was done. It's very much pointing to like, this is what's happening in this movie. There's a lot of talk in the writing world about making promises early on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like making a big deal about the shoe is very much that like, hey, we're going to have like the People's Revolution happening in this movie.
Right. Yeah. Which happens for most of the movie, and then it gets completely derailed at the end with everything. Again, I keep coming back to it, the ending.
Derailed? But yeah.
I know what I did.
I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you.
So it seems like we're, not a lot of visual steampunk, but more like tropes and things that are common in these stories,
a lot of themes
right?
and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you could find something that you liked about this movie, besides the shoe, which you liked, is there anything else just in general that you liked about this movie?
I like I said, there are a lot of interesting things in this movie. I love a good system. And I, as horrible as it was applied, I like the idea of a self-sustaining system, not to the end of murdering people, but you know, like if we talk about sustainable farming and stuff like that, that's meant to be like a system that, well, sustains itself, thus sustainable. I like that a lot. I like kind of that concept, but again, not to the end of murdering people. And even though the aquarium seems like weirdly unwieldy for a train, like, man,
I wrote that down. Like, is this possible?
Like, water is a very sloshy substance, and it's really heavy. Water's extremely heavy.
We saw the train getting rocked when it went through, like, broke through the ice and stuff. It's like, would that aquarium stay in one piece?
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I liked, like you, I like the different, like, kind of worlds that we see as we pass from car to car. And I like this. I love it. An infrastructure. I love, I don't want to use the word ecosystem because they did, and it makes me feel weird. But I like the world building of it. You had like the sort of typical train car section that you would see on, the Orient Express or something like that.
Right, a normal
there was, like,
train.
Dentist office, and like someone there was somebody like just drinking tea and reading or whatever. That's really interesting to me to see like how people set up infrastructure in non-traditional spaces, and I think that's really cool. So I enjoy that. I don't know about the cows and the pigs. Like, you kind of go through that huge meat freezer section.
Right.
It's like, where are the livestock? This is a lot of meat.
Yeah. So getting into some of the, like, unrealistic, you start to break down the realism. There's a thing that watching this movie, I felt like maybe it was starting to do, but it didn't really finish that way, and that the movie starts really realistic and grounded, right? Like, very grounded in reality. You are in this world, you're learning these people and the system of how they live there. They're plotting their escape. They get through the first few cars, and it's still all like gritty and dark. They do see a window for the first time at one point, and things start to get more light and color. And there's a certain point where, like, you started in this reality. It gets less and less realistic, though. I kind of feel like if you mapped out the cars, it would be like, okay, you got the water thing, and then you had, like you said, the normal looking train sections, and then you had like the weird school thing. I feel like that's where it gets off the rails. Like, once you reach the school car with all the children,
that was some A+ indoctrination.
Oh my goodness. But also, like, it got really bright and colorful, and everything from that point on is kind of like off the wall bonkers. But you're so grounded in reality already that you kind of accept it as you go, but then it just gets more and more ridiculous. I was kind of thinking that this was like the movie doing a thing where the story itself becomes more and more unrealistic. It becomes a fable. And maybe that's because this is like in the retelling of this story, like, most of the people had died, so the stories are all like fragmented, and like it's like myth and fable that's passed down and becomes more and more unbelievable. I don't know.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm on board.
So I was kind of hoping that's what it was doing, and then maybe the ending would be more metaphorical, even, but they bring it right back down to the reality. It gets dark and dingy again. You have big long speeches, and it kind of ends that fantastical journey part. Yeah,
like, it almost, thinking about it, like, in the, like, couched in the idea of like, this is a retelling that someone else told, assuming humanity didn't die out or the polar bears didn't become sentient and like are telling this to their little baby polar bears.
Well, they had to translate it from English to polar bear and back to English to tell us. So maybe that stuff got lost there.
There you go. That's the answer. Like, that almost makes me feel better about it. Oh, gosh.
We're building some fan canon here around the movie.
It makes it more palatable because, gosh, yeah. And actually, along those lines, I had a note about, like, because as they progress, like, after the battle, where the guards basically take control back of the water car, like the car where the water is controlled, there's kind of like no one else really. Like, they get like the drugged out ravers to be guards, sort of.
Yeah.
And like, it just feels like they just kind of we're like, I guess most everyone else is done. Like, there's only so many people on this car, and like we used up all the guards to take the water back. I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, the whole thing gets more and more ridiculous and untenable and all that.
So another thing that I liked, and thank goodness he was here, because in addition to Octavia Spencer, who is just, like I said, just a legend.
She got to be a badass too. She got to beat up some people.
She was great.
She's a fighter.
Octavia Spencer, she's amazing. John Hurt, always amazing.
Oh, great, yeah.
Like the cast was great.
Gravitas.
But my favorite character, and this was a parkour guy. I don't know his name.
Oh, parkour guy.
Parkour guy was hands down my favorite. The only thing that I'm not sure about is like, so he doesn't look old enough to have come to the train knowing parkour. Like, he looks about 17. He might have been born on the train or something.
Yeah.
So
kind of
like,
ambiguous. I don't know.
But he seems to be the only one with this skill set.
Right.
He's kind of like the Rook being character from my books. He's kind of the Rook with this like super athletic skill set and like climbing up walls and like stabbing people from above and really cool stuff like that. But no one else has this. Like, how has no one else have been doing the same training as him? He is it.
Yeah, like he hits a great entrance where he like throws off his coat.
Right, he's got the awesome tattoos.
Yeah, and then like he doesn't really speak, but he takes somebody hostage early. He's like surrender or die. He like shows the two tattoos.
It's so cool.
Yeah, he was great. He was awesome. Yeah, great entrance, the cool tattoos, and like whipped up and like knifed that guy.
Yeah, I actually wrote in my notes like more parkour guy, please. And then I couldn't remember if he lived, but of course he doesn't because everyone dies in this. But
he dies like painfully.
Oh yeah, no, he dies like trying to like with like the knife like through his hand and then into his chest. It's awful. It's terrible. Like, so I was very sad when he was like, oh man, parkour guy.
But you got to enjoy him for a bit.
Yeah,
Parkour guy.
I definitely got to enjoy him longer than I thought I would. He almost made it.
Made it further than some people.
Yeah. So, and I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter because they all died anyway.
Well, at least that was one thing you enjoyed.
Yes. So the Rook of the train, parkour guy.
I'll say some stuff I liked.
Go on.
I did like a lot of things about this movie. I liked Octavia Spencer shouting chicken at the top of her lungs.
I mean, Octavia Spencer is a legend. She's just amazing, and I just love her and everything.
I liked the subtle humor sprinkled throughout. There was you say it is very dark and depressing, but they threw in little nuggets. Like,
they tried. At
one point, you see in the garden car, someone's just sitting there knitting in a chair. I thought that was funny. I thought the part where the daughter of the techie guy who's opening the doors for them.
Oh, Yona,
yeah. So she, at one point, there's like a butler at a door. She asks him to open the door. He opens it and she's like, I want my drugs now. She's taking credit for it.
I mean, she did her job.
Right. Just because they didn't have to jimmy it doesn't mean it doesn't count.
Yeah, they didn't say how she got to open a door.
I thought that was funny. And then like the assistant lady that had the shoe thrown at her, she just measured everything.
Yeah. She
took the drug bomb away, she measured it first. Like, that's a funny little joke.
I mean, like I said, they tried. I feel like I just like, I can't bring myself to laugh at stuff like that after I've watched a man like get his arm frozen and then bashed off. I just can't like find humor after that.
Yeah. It does have that, yeah.
It's, oh gosh.
I think I really like the first half of the movie. Maybe the first like 65% of it, where again, we're doing the world building, we're going on the adventure, we're following our heroes. And even throughout that part, till like 75% of the way through the movie, it does keep variety. It is long. There are some scenes that are really drawn out, but even scene to scene, it goes from like, all right, we got like a slow talking scene, now we got some action. And even like within the action scenes, there's good variety of the visual. It's not just like, oh, people punching each other in the same type of way for 5 minutes. There's like this kind of thing happening, and then there's like a little mini story in the middle.
They were very creative with their violence.
Yeah. Like they told little stories through the action scenes instead of just being like, this is the action part. So I thought all of that was really done. I kind of think this whole movie is the director just kind of flexing because he's doing action. He's doing, long monologue dialogue scenes. He's doing like heartfelt scenes. He's working with every different type of lighting that you can imagine to put in front of a camera.
Right.
Like super dark. You got the bright window. You got
night vision.
The night vision. You got the different colors in different rooms. Like it's everything. I think he's maybe it's just an audition for future movies. Like, hey, I can do all this stuff.
I mean, and go him. Like you're right. He does a lot. He really accomplishes a lot with this film. It's so hard for me to swallow. It's so sad. Everyone dies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm real down to this episode.
Yeah, and not to keep harping on it, but I would say like my least favorite thing is how it all wraps up. And the end, it felt a little bit like, that's where it breaks the momentum, where it usually was doing talking and then action. Well, you get the big long talking scene between Chris Evans and the lockpicker guy. And then you go to another long talking scene with the train conductor guy. It just, yeah. And those scenes, they're just explaining things and telling you, oh, these things we sprinkle back here, that's what they mean. I wish like we would have been able to pick up on the meaning as we go. And then at the end, we're just putting the pieces together instead of here. It's like explaining everything that just happened.
Right.
With new information. It's like, oh, okay. I feel like when a movie has to be like actual cutaway to previous scenes, be like, hey, remember that? Then that means it didn't really do a good enough job of planting those seeds. So, but it did have some things that were planted well. Like I caught the arm motion that the kid at the end was doing to clean out the pipe. Tilda Swinton did that during her speech at the very beginning.
Do you think that means that she was one of those children at one point?
It's hard to tell because also the conductor guy does it like involuntarily at one point too.
Yeah, I'm not sure like is it, I don't know.
Or maybe it's just some sort of like sign of solidarity or something they learned. I don't know. But it was at least the director throwing in that visual so that it would pay off at the end when you saw the kid in there and be like, oh, he's serving his purpose. And it's this visual cue that we had way back. She actually did it with the shoe. When she was holding the shoe, she like...
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the camera followed it really closely, and you had like the close-up of the shoe and the guy with his arm through the outside of the train in the background. It was kind of a complicated shot, and you're like, why are you focusing on this? You think it's focusing on the shoe, which it is, but it's also this arm motion that's being done on purpose, too.
Do you almost feel like it's kind of the Snowpiercer version of crossing yourself, like in Catholicism? Because they do have a lot of like very like dogmatic language. It sounds like they're talking about like, the sacred engine and stuff like that. And like Wilford is like our savior and stuff like that. So I almost wonder if like that's almost like like I said, like the Snowpiercer version of that.
Maybe so. I would buy it more if the train had been in existence longer. Because like Tilda Swinton and the conductor guy, like they're too old to have fulfilled that role as small children.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Because it's only been 17 years.
It's only been 17 years. Yeah. So I feel like if the train was older, you could have more people who had that as a physical language that they had learned, and maybe it would be a tick or something. But yeah, the train's not old enough. So it doesn't really make sense why it's there. It's just put there.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an interesting little thing.
Yeah. There's one more thing that I thought was a little bit weird, and I kind of get it, but also, I don't know. So, the scene where like they look down into the, like basically like the thing that's crunching up whatever to make the protein bars, and they see it's a whole bunch of bugs.
Right.
And like, granted, seeing like a huge drum full of bugs is disgusting. Even talking about it's like making me feel itchy, but like
confirmed. Dana scratched her head.
Yeah, it I'll grant you like that's creepy AF, but like also, okay, again, the surprise factor is a big deal, but I don't think the idea of eating bugs is quite as gross as they made out. This movie was made in like 2013 or so, and like funny enough, we had cricket flour then. Like people talk about bugs maybe being the protein of the future.
Right.
And I just felt like the reaction was a little strong. I've eaten a cockroach. It's fine, but the wings are a little.
I haven't eaten a cockroach, but I did have the same reaction watching it. I think I looked at you too. I was like, wait, I asked you, it was like, is that what I thought I saw? It was just bugs, right? And they're reacting like it was bodies, like humans in the grinder.
Right. I thought like that's the sort of reaction I would think for like, oh, this is what they do with the dead bodies. Oh, noes.
I had forgotten that from my first watching. I was like, oh, wait, did they find this where they find out that there's like bodies in the grinder? Right. And then when they reacted, I was like, oh, it is. And I was like, it's just bugs?
Yeah. Soylent Green is not people.
Right. No, it's protein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's nutritious. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not tasty, I guess, if it's just in a gelatinous cube, but...
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that they're farmed bugs, because that's not something else if you ever look into cricket flour, you'll find that they talk about farmed crickets are better because they don't, they can make sure they're not carrying parasites or whatever. So yeah,
things
FYI.
I didn't think I would learn today.
And now you know.
Thank you.
The more you know, da da da. I don't know if that's the tune.
We'll say it is.
Sure. So
I think we probably said enough things that we didn't like about it, and you have too. So the tone, I guess, mainly. How dark, depressing.
Real dark, y'all.
Yeah. But hey, we got through it, We got through the long adventure.
I'm going to go pet a puppy after this.
You should. They will enjoy that as well. So I think that's probably all we have to say. Now it's time for us to give ratings. So we're going to first rate this movie on how steampunk it is on a scale of 1 to 5 steam engines. Dana's the expert. What do you think for this one?
I'm only going to give it 1 steam train, because while we had a train and there were gears and maybe magnetism, most of the technology was pretty futuristic.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And none of those elements were really focused on or explained a lot. And didn't really play into the story that much either.
Yeah. Like, if not futuristic, then at least modern.
Right. Yeah, because it's post-apocalypse, so there's a little bit of regression, but still a lot of modern stuff. And I
totally dig the idea of like a round-the-world track for like, the ultra-luxurious train cruise. I think that's very cool. But I mean, like I said, beyond that, there's just no one.
Yeah. I mean, lucky he designed that before the apocalypse, right?
Yeah, I guess. Well, he'd always been obsessed with trains, so like, I guess it was like knocking around in his head anyway.
Or is this just, to someone with a hammer, everything looks like a nail? He's like, the answer to the apocalypse is trains, my favorite thing.
It's always trains.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. And I mean, they did set it up that he wanted to do like the train cruise before, the world began to end and things like that. So they set it up, but yeah, beyond that, just meh. Oh,
I forgot to, while we're giving rate. Okay, I'll do it when I give my rating. So then we rate based on how much we just enjoyed watching the movie. Not necessarily how technically good or if it would win an Oscar or how the rest of the world rates it. How much do we enjoy it? So Dana, on a scale of, what is your scale again?
1 to 5 gears.
1 to 5 gears.
Yeah. I'm going to give it 1.
1 gear.
1 gear.
Yeah, I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It makes me feel very sad and drags me down. Drags me down so deep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
Sorry.
Kind of not sorry, but it was fun to watch again.
There are cupcakes in the world. There are puppies and kitties. There are still good things in the world.
So I enjoyed this less this time around, I think. I think on my first viewing, I probably would have given it, on my scale of top hats, I probably would have given it a 4. I'm going to downgrade it to a 3. Maybe mostly because I'm going to tell you now what my very least favorite thing in the movie was.
The ending?
It was a line spoken by Chris Evans near the ending.
No. Oh, I think I know the line. Oh, no.
He said, "We know the thing that I most hate about myself.
Oh, my gosh.
I know what people taste like. And I know that babies taste best."
Oh, my gosh. The baby eating line.
Was like, I know what people taste like was bad enough, and I had forgotten. And when he says the baby line, I'm like, oh, no, that's the worst line ever.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up.
So that definitely downgrades this movie. I still think it's kind of a fun adventure. It is very dark, but I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 top hats for Snowpiercer, the movie.
Cool. Yeah, it's a series now, funny enough.
Yeah, there is a series. So if you need more of this, then go watch that. I haven't seen it. I don't know. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's less depressing. Maybe there's more to root for. Maybe everyone doesn't die at the end.
Maybe it's a continuation.
Oh, could be.
Where the polar bears are in charge.
Yes, it's the polar bear version.
A girl can dream.
That's it. That's going to be our next project. Make the Snowpiercer sequel starring polar bears.
There we go. I love it. It'll just be a bunch of people in polar bear like costumes, like ill-fitting ones. It's gonna be great.
Oh, it'll be subtitled too, because they're gonna speak in their native language.
Of course, it'll be like growl, growl.
Oh, you speak polar bear?
I do indeed. I'm fluent.
Oh my goodness, I had no idea. Well, on that note, a happy note at the end of this dark movie podcast. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Steam Powered Movies. Join us next time, and if you enjoyed listening as well as tuning in again, please go on iTunes or Stitcher, whatever podcast app, and leave us a review. Leave us 5 stars, please. Tell us that you did that. You can tell us by hitting us up on Twitter at SteamPoweredPod. You can go to steampoweredmovies.com for more information, and we will look forward to hanging out with you guys on the next episode.
Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye. We gotta pick something good for next time.